Hey there, everybody. I am joined by Andy Talaga, and we are
AKA
here
Boba Fett.
We're playing around with some graphics here. He's got a fun background. I added to remember to like and subscribe so I don't forget to say it or
Yep.
say it at the very end. But we're here to talk about the other half of blowing up the Death Star. So we did the dark side, blowing up Alderaan. So this is intended to blow up the Death Star rather than Alderaan. So Andy, can you walk us through kind of what we're looking at here, the starting package, everything? So this is
So this is Attack Run. So just as a reminder, this was part of these are like two, you could call them dual decks if you want. There's a Star Wars Book Club Discord channel that they do different scenarios for. It's much more casual and friendly in nature and not supposed to be like really cutthroat and optimized decks that are just going to like drain at non-battlegrounds and play Scanning Crew 15 times.
Which, frankly, is how most people prefer to play, Andy. I'm just going to put it out there.
I know that that's not how I prefer to play, but I know that that's how most people prefer. So anyway, they came up that they were going to be revisiting Attack Run versus CPI. So I built two kind of decks that they could use as like samples, I guess. We already went over the CPI one, so if you haven't seen that, go check out the CPI video. But this is the light side version. So there's a couple of things to note about this because those two decks are like designed to play against each other. Like the dark side deck didn't have a copy of Yavin 4 because this deck has Yavin 4. And this deck likewise does not have a copy of the Death Star because that deck has the Death Star in it. So this wouldn't work if you were just trying to play Attack Run versus random person. You would need to actually put a copy of the Death Star in here. But in any event, what we have is Massassi base operations. So this is an objective from Third Anthology. It says deploy Yavin 4 system and Yavin 4 docking bay. For remainder of game, you may not play Revolution or Force Drain at Yavin 4 sites or sectors. While this setup, you generate no more than one force from each Yavin 4 site. Once during each of your deploy phases, you may deploy one Yavin 4 site from reserve deck, reshuffle each Imperials, deploy +2 to Yavin 4. Flip this card if you control 3 Yavin 4 sites and opponent controls fewer than 3 Yavin 4 sites. Place out of play if Yavin 4 is blown away. Now, I will also add a small asterisk that the rules of their scenario is if dark side blows away Yavin 4, they just automatically win and light side would concede the match. If light side blows away the Death Star, light side wins and dark side would concede the match, even if there was like life force or whatever left over. It's just kind of like you blew away the Death Star, you met the mission objective.
Yeah, you sort of met the win condition.
So on the back side, there's not really so you have to control the 3 sites. You flip this and it says, while this side up, you may deploy Death Star system, which you don't have in this deck because it's in the dark side deck. But without completing Death Star plans, once during each of your deploy phases, you can take 1 Rebel Tech, Death Star system, Attack Run, or Proton Torpedoes into hand from reserve deck. Your total power is +3 at battles at systems. If Death Star is blown away, add 3 force loss to each opponent's Death Star site for the remainder of the game. Your force trains and battlegrounds cannot. At battlegrounds at systems where you have a starfighter present with a pilot character are each +2. Now, again, if the Death Star is blown away, the game just ends. So that part's kind of irrelevant. But so you're going to start with Yavin 4 system from Premier and the docking bay. Then we're going to start with our trusty old heading for the medical frigate. So you can deploy 3 effects that are always immune to alter and deploy on table. The effects that you're going to go get are going to be Squadron Assignments. So this one allows you to reveal a pilot or a unpiloted starfighter and then get the matching pilot or matching ship, and you can deploy them together. And then you'll get Strike Planning, which twice per game you can take Mon Mothma or any general except Obi-Wan into hand from reserve deck. Opponent's force generator should not Endor is canceled, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there's no Endor. So you're just using this to pull out 2 different generals, which you've got a few different. Actually, you only really have 2 generals. You have General Calrissian, because who doesn't like Lando going on an attack run in the Falcon? It's just like the movies. And General Dodonna, he can just occupy a Yavin site because you need to control 3 Yavin foresights. And then your third one is really up to you. Actually, there's you could start. Actually, you can't start S-foils because you need to have red leader on table. So your only other option is going to be, let's keep a little optimism here. This is the anti-operative effect. You really don't need any of this except for at any time you may place this effect out of play to retrieve 1 force. So in the case that you do lose from an early force strain or like some random battle and you lose a card off the top of your deck and you lose your attack run, you can place that out of play to go get your attack run back. Or Death Star Trench, right? Something like that.
That's a nice redundancy to have built in there, just in case this happens.
Just in case something happens, you can go get it back like immediately, so that you can keep your deck going. But other than that, you are going. So on turn 1, you'll pull out General Calrissian, you'll pull out General Dodonna off of your strike planning. And then you pull out a system. Now, you can only activate your force generations limited to 1 at site. So, like, even if you get War Room or the headquarters out, you're only going to generate 1 off of them. The headquarters is really nice because it can't be separated from interior Yavin foresights, whatever. The other 3 are all interior. So, okay. But if you control, your attack run total is +2. And you want to defend this because if they occupy it, the attack run total is -4. And then you also have the briefing room. If you control with a leader here, add 1 to your attack run total. So General Dodonna is a leader. You can put him at this site, and then he'll add 1 to your attack run total. I guess you should kind of go over what attack run does because there's like a wall of text on this card. Right. So deploy on Death Star Trench. So you have to get the trench out, which you can do off the back of. Actually, you can't get that off the back of there. I didn't even realize that. Okay. You can deploy Rebel Tech Death Star. Oh, the Rebel Techs get something. I forget exactly, but yeah. Okay. So you can pull out a Rebel Tech, and then during your control phase, you can put this Rebel Tech into your used pile to take the Death Star Trench into your hand. So once you control 3 sites, or, that's why you have 5 Rebel Techs in your deck, because they can sit there and control sites to flip. And then you can always just go get 1 if you have other characters that will control the sites. And you put 1 in your used pile is because you need the Death Star Trench. So you put the trench down. Then you can attack run. So deploy on Death Star Trench. During your move phase, you can make an attack run as follows. Enter the trench. Move up to 3 of your starfighters into the trench. So you have to have 3 starfighters at the Death Star. You can have up to 3 starfighters. So if you only have 1 or if you have 2, then you can move 1 or 2. But you can move up to 3 starfighters. They have to be at the Death Star system, and then they can go into the trench. They can move for free. Darkside can immediately follow with up to 3 ties. They can be any ties, but they can follow with 3 ties. Identify a lead starfighter. The lead starfighter must have a proton torpedo. There's even an asterisk here. This is the only card that has an asterisk reminder text in all of Star Wars CCG. So it's a fun trivia fact. But it says your proton torpedoes are immune to overload. Okay, so you have 2 copies of proton torpedoes. And then any wingmen, if any. So you have a lead starfighter and then 0 to 2 wingmen. Turbo laser batteries and ties with weapons can target your starfighters. They have to target the wingman first and then the lead starfighter. Hit starfighters are immediately lost. And then if they don't have any weapons or they don't shoot anything, you just go to drawing 2 destinies. So you play the trench, they all move in, they fire. If they don't fire, they all move right back to the Death Star, and then you draw your 2 destinies. If total destiny plus X, where X is the ability of your lead pilot, or 3 if a targeting computer is aboard, just before pull-up. So ideally you want to have Luke or Lando or Han or Colonel Friend Gospic, or Wedge. They all add, Luke adds 4, but the other 3 all add 3 because they're all ability 3. Plus Y, which is total sites at largest rebel base. Yavin or Hoth. Well, there's no Hoth, so you're going to have 4 sites out. Minus Z, highest ability of opponent's TIE pilots entrench. So if they have Vader, it becomes very difficult to do because they're going to -6, but 2, maybe 3 is greater than 15, then the Death Star is blown away. So 2 destinies plus your ability plus 4 from Yavin 4 minus their ability, and then you can blow away the Death Star. So how do you actually get to that point? So we've got a few different starfighters. We've got R2 and Red 5. And then we've got the Gold Squadron 1 so that you can reveal it off of strike planning to get Lando. It's immune to Talon roll, so it's kind of better than the original Falcon in that regard. There's Red 3 for Biggs. There's Red 6 for Jek. There's Red Leader and Red 1, and then Red Squadron 1 for Wedge Red Squadron Leader. So those are your fighters. You need at least one. I recommend Luke Skywalker on R2 and Red 5. But you need to get these guys. You deploy them to Yavin 4. You need to get them to the Death Star, and then you need to get the trench out. You just have a few cards that'll help you with that. So there's 3 copies of Tunnel Vision, so you can search your force pile and take any card into hand. And then you have a copy of Yoda Stew. During your opponent's turn, you can take 4 cards from your hand and place them back into your force pile. So what that lets you do is it lets you draw like a big hand. It lets you draw like all of your force if you need to, and then put back any of the cards that you don't really need so that you have some additional force for your next turn. But it kind of helps you with cycling through your force pile. There's 2 copies of the Signal because you want to get well, I just clicked away from that. It's the card S Foils. S Foils deploys on table. You can use one during your control phase. You can use a force. Your X-Wings and B-Wings are each power +2 and hyper speed 1, and add 1 to each of their weapon destiny draws. It just is a good way of buffing your all your X-Wings to make them more powerful in a battle if you needed to. And there's a copy of Entrenchment. So deploy on your side of table. Once per turn, you can cancel a force drain by putting a non-unique rebel there, and non-unique rebels may deploy there as if from hand. So you have 5 copies of Rebel Tech, who's a non-unique rebel that you can put on there. You also have Incom Engineer, who can go on there as well in a pinch. And then Haven. So Haven makes, you can deploy it on Yavin 4, your starships deploy -2 and pilots deploy -1. And if there's a battle at Yavin 4, you can add a battle destiny. So it just helps out with the deploy cost of all your ships. 2 proton torpedoes and an X-Wing laser cannon because you're going to be fighting other TIE fighters in space. And then from there, you just have some good thematic, both by picture and by space interrupts. So a few maneuvers to make your ships more maneuverable. Antilles Maneuver, so you can take a Corellian Slip, or if Luke and Wedge are in a battle at a system or sector, you can exclude from that battle one of opponent's starfighters present. So that's actually very powerful if you're able to ever do that. Corellian Slip lets you either decrease the maneuver of an opponent's starfighter by 1, so it makes it easier to shoot, or if they just tried to Talon roll, you get to add the maneuver and ability of one of your pilots, which will pretty much always guarantee that you win the Talon roll rather than them. Darklighter Spin lets you use your maneuver, and in place of drawing a battle destiny, it lets you substitute the destiny for your maneuver. So something like R2 and Red 5 is going to be, maneuver 6. And then Luke adds 2 to maneuver, so it'll be maneuver 8. And then you can a few maneuvers, and you can be maneuver 10, and then your battle destiny will be a 10. A hyper escape in case you need to get away. A moving to attack position to make your starfighter immune to attrition for a turn. And if it's piloted by a Corellian, it's power +2. So Wedge and Han are both Corellians. Organized attack lets if a battle was just initiated, your X-Wings are each power +1 and immune to attrition. And then you have old friends. If Luke and Biggs are defending a battle together, add 1 battle destiny, or if Luke and Biggs are making an attack run, add 1 destiny to your attack run total. So really, you want to have Luke and Biggs making your attack run for you so that you can get 3 destiny draws. You have some pretty high destinies, like you have a second copy of R2 in Red 5, so that'll be a 7. And then there's a Rebel Artillery, which makes them lose a force if you have a weapon at a battleground, which you have proton torpedoes and X-Wing laser cannons, but it's also a used interrupt that's a 7, so you'll be able to cycle those. 1 copy of Rebel Barrier just as a fail-safe, and then a bunch of pilots. Like I said, you've got Biggs, Jek, Wedge, Luke making the attack run, General Dodonna, and Lando, to pull off your strike planning. Han, 2 copies of this Leia while she's at a Rebel base. She can subtract 1 from force drains at related locations. And then you can deploy a leader of ability less than 3 in case you need it to go get I think this guy's a leader. Maybe he's not. I can't remember. But he deploys -2 to a Rebel base, so he deploys for 1. While he's at your war room, he adds 1 to your attack run total. So you want to get Dodonna at the conference room. You want to get Major Palo Torshan to the war room, and you want to put somebody at the Massassi headquarters so that you're going to add +4 to your attack run total, and then you add 4 from the sites, so that gives you 8. Plus Luke adds 4 from his abilities, so that's 12. So off of 2 destinies, you need to draw 3, minus whatever their highest ability pilot is. The other guys are just kind of there because they work with X-Wings and do stuff on Yavin 4, which is kind of neat. So pretty good, very focused deck on trying to make the attack run happen and make it as easy as possible, because it's not the easiest epic event to complete.
Yeah, I've always thought attack run was a little clunky.
It's extremely clunky.
The wall of text. And so I guess this is intended to play as sort of a duel against the dark side deck, which we did last week. Right. But just a note, I guess if you really wanted to run this solo, you could throw in a copy of the light side Death Star. It just wouldn't be very competitive.
No, you would lose every game, because this is you could take out, this card comes from Coruscant, so you would have to be playing either Decipher cards only or be playing Classic or Classic No V, no virtual cards, which have really, really broken things going on in them, like Brangus Glee Superstar deck and Senate and Watto Objective and stuff. So you could just cut this 1 card and put in a light side Death Star, and that would take it down to Premiere through Death Star 2 era. But even then, this deck would probably just get absolutely destroyed by Bring Him Before Me or Hunt Down and Destroy the Jedi. It wouldn't even be close. You'd lose by 40 cards. You would just get wrecked. So very fun to play against another person who has a dedicated CPI deck, Commence Primary Ignition deck, so that you guys can have a good time, blow away Yavin or blow away the Death Star. I do not recommend taking this into a competitive event.
Well, let's kind of end it there.
Sure.
The people wanted dual decks. We gave them some dual decks.
We're listening. Leave comments below about what you want us to cover that aren't just Myo Mini scanning crew decks that nobody wants to play against. So anything you want, put a comment, and then and ring the bell. Smash that like button. I think that's
right. That's what people say. Smash the like button.
Smash the like button and ring the bell to subscribe.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good one.